call to order. Ron, you gonna take the roll?
Yes, sir. Shelby Hutton,
Here.
Cannon Lowry,
Present.
Paul Myers,
Present.
Bill Shacklet, and Valeska Starnes.
Here.
Steve Baldwin's out.
We have reported.
All right, appreciate everybody being here. Thank you for volunteering your time on behalf of the city and the airport. It's an honor to serve with the community. Public comment, Chad?
None for us today.
And just a reminder, you got a link there at the agenda, right, for if anybody asks that they want to speak, that link there is what
Yes.
they need to go to, fill it out. So if anybody asks any of you on the commission, that's how they would go about doing that.
And I send that out to all of our customers each time, and so they have that.
All right, and then if you'll take a look in your, you've got printed copies there of the previous meeting. If you'll only take a few minutes just to look through that and make sure there's no questions on that. And Ron, you want to go around for approval? We need a motion.
Yeah, do a motion first.
I got a motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All right, call and roll. Shelby Hutton,
Yay.
Cannon Lowry,
Okay.
Paul Myers. Valeska Starnes.
Yes.
All right, Ron, you want to give us an update on AeroSimple and airport hangar leases?
Yeah, we made some pretty good improvement since progress since we last met. We are now at 62% of our leaseholders are fully executed with everything. There's a 23% of them about are the ones that are still working to get those documents to me, the insurance and that kind of stuff. Most of the time it's just minor mistakes. Again, they didn't remember to put the additionally insured language on there. It's just a slow, very patient process. But there's about 15% of them out there that have the lease, like the DocuSign's been sent out, they just haven't worked through the multi-signature process to get it fully executed. Just hasn't gotten it back to me. Sometimes that's just about every single time that seems to be rooted in just user error, or they were trying to do it on a Mac and just didn't pay attention to the instructions. So, but we're getting there.
Do we need to type up instructions for that, you think? Or-
There is a informational video, actually. It's not just the word. We actually gave them a video
Okay.
to step by step through the process.
I don't know if there's a way to, so on my DocuSign, I use DocuSign every day for business. Like a lot of people, sometimes it just gets buried in their email, and they forget about it. But you're able to set up, where it sends out reminders. Every third day it'll send out reminders, so it's an automatic thing, so that it kind of keeps it at the top of their email.
We are a little bit limited on the DocuSign functions because we're doing everything through the AeroSimple website, and it's sort of this integration. So once you've gotten all your documents in and I click send, I kind of lose control of the document for a little bit there. And until everybody signs it, it comes back to me. My only option is to delete it and start over. So if someone says that it's timed out and they're not seeing it anymore, there seems to be some sort of timeout. If you haven't signed it within a reasonable period, I just delete it and start over. It's not really a hassle at my end, but that's kind of where we're at. So I have been sending out reminder emails to all these people too that have just not signed it yet. And I sincerely believe it's just not giving it the attention it deserves to just get it over with, because it does take a level of coordination, especially if you have multiple signatures or if your household has nothing but Macs. These are things we gotta work through. Because once I get them in my office, like I had 2 people come in this morning. Once you get them come in my office and it's pulled up and we just plow through it real easy. So,
How many folks have shown up in person, like out of 100%?
I think out of everybody, I'd probably say maybe a dozen have come in person. Not having a Windows operating system computer seems to be, it's a struggle. And I'm working with AeroSimple because they have an app. It's just not really developed so much for the lease management portion of their of all their software packages. So I am harassing them to, it's a goal. Eventually we'll have this integrated into the app, so you won't have to, you won't be dependent on the website. Right now, if you try to do something on a phone or an Apple, you're having to use Safari or whatever the Android version of their web browser is, I don't know. But, and that's the issue, is the website doesn't portabilize itself very well. That is not the right term, but I think you know where I'm going.
And with a lot of our customers with pilots with iPads,
Yeah.
it really, that didn't.
And I've
Slow
told
very
people
well.
that, are having technical challenges, like, if you're having a problem uploading the document, just email it to me, so that way we can, keep the ball rolling. I don't want to hold anybody up because they're having issues technologically. So I'm definitely emailing them and saying, hey, please come in. They're getting a lot of reminders saying, what can I do to help? And so it's kind of a back and forth. And that's why it's taken so long to get us to where we're at, because we haven't, up until recently, up until probably this week, we haven't taken an aggressive approach to this. We've tried to be patient and let people, mingle this into their lives, but now we're getting to the point where we've been doing this for 8 months now? We're at okay, the patience keeps running out. I'm starting to use the term violation and, actions and future so trying to get their attention a little more, and it's working. It's proven effective just this week alone. So,
Of the 15%, is that have not signed?
Correct. Those are the
those
15%.
Are those people that are subletting, or are those people that are actual, they have the
those
airplane?
are actual tenants, yeah.
Okay.
I don't want to use names, but yeah, these are active
Yeah.
people that use their aircraft often,
I know.
that just, again, I think they're just busy,
Yeah.
and it does take some time. If you have 3 people that need to sign the lease, you have to kind of coordinate amongst each other, because it's only going to go to one person at a time.
Right.
Legally, it's got to play out that way, because it's only one person that's signing the document for as they see it.
Maybe we could start putting boots on aircraft.
There we go.
Just lock the hanger up.
I'm up for any attention getters. I'm taking recommendations. So anything to get people's attention. Because that's really all I've been vying for the past several months, is just, come on, give me some attention, give me a little bit of your time. It won't take long if we can just get it through. And that's just kind of where we're at.
Thanks for your efforts on that, Ron.
Yeah.
All right, Vincent and Chad.
All right, so we're due to give City Council an annual update. I think we'll be doing that at their February workshop coming up here in the second week of February. So I tried to do this last month, and I was out sick, but we've really kind of wrapped up the paving project, at least this phase of it now. But let's start with the new fuel farm. All the pieces and parts are in and in place. The real frustrating part right now these last few weeks has been the integration between mechanical and computer. And I think we've Rebel Services has finally gotten to the base of that. Fuel Masters Live unit, which is their newest and latest and greatest unit out there, is a brand new system that hasn't been in place in many locations. So Rebel Services has had to really go back even to the schematics and work through some things with Fuelmaster to get our totalizers and numbers correct. We were close, but we wanted to make sure that when you go to fuel your plane, what it says on the scoreboard and what it says on the receipt and what you see at the pump all match.
And what's in your airplane?
And what's in your airplane all matches. Behind us is down at City Hall a whole accounting staff, and they're accounting for every drop of fuel that goes out. So we want to make sure we give them accurate records, or Kim has to work really extra hard to find them. So we think we've got the relays and all that in place now, that this will be working. Tomorrow is when Tommy is back on site.
I was looking tomorrow.
And to kind of put this in perspective, on our old system, we had one pump that fueled into aircraft, and then we also fueled into the big tanks of trucks all at the same rate. Now we've got a system that pumps into the fuel into the aircraft and we have bulk fueling in just a few minutes can fuel up a truck, all on that same meter. So we have to have a lot of electronical stuff going in there to, because it all goes through Fuel Master, whether we're fueling a truck in a few minutes or we're taking several minutes to fuel an aircraft gallon by gallon.
Is it single point or something for the
There's
truck?
yeah, it's a belly, and there's what is it called? The safety measure on the.
It's called the Scully system.
Hmm.
It's sort of an electronic fail-safe to keep you from overfilling the truck. Kind of takes it out of your hands and locks everything up.
Very similar to center point on the aircraft. It'll cut off.
Yeah.
So that's some of the safety things, and we're still kind of working with thinking about MTSU really when they fuel up, them doing that only when we have staff on hand and not doing it at night when we're not around.
Yeah.
Just because the system is just so much more technical and all that, and we want to be able to put our trucks in the fuel pad area at night, so they're in containment at night.
Hey Chad, is there a
Yeah.
light there for users? Because it
So-
feels like I came by the other night and it's thing kind of dark.
Right. When Tommy gets done with all this, we're going to probably put some lights up here with S&W.
It was dark.
Yeah. And those will probably just go on when the system is working, I think is how that will work. So that when you pull up, when you're fueling, it will light up. I don't know. That's
Yeah.
just some things that we've got to work through. But yes, there'll be some additional lighting
Okay.
going on. So this is the before paving, and you know what the condition of the pavement was, and this is after, and it's a pretty noticeable difference in the condition of the pavement, and you can see also the displacement of runway 36 and the addition of the blast pad in this picture. This is the next area that we will be working on. Barge has a work authorization right now that you'll be requesting a design here before April to the state to design this. Now, initially, this was the area right in here that we were going to do the work in, but as we did this work, we found that there was still water coming up through the cracks in this area, and I think some in here as well. And I recall from when we've built some of these T-hangers, we did run into some perched water type of situation, so barge will have to take some sort of drainage and underground and put it into our storm water system to relieve that water so that it's not always pushing up through that. That's why the cracks are so bad in those areas because of that perched water type of situation. The other area is down here by Hangar 3, but as you recall, that will be an area that we will take care of later on when the road gets moved and things like that, because not only is it a pavement issue, but it's a slope issue and all kinds of other issues there that are going on at the same time. The blast pad, as you recall, is built to runway standards. So in the future, if there's something that we change the need or use of that area, we can do it. This kind of shows you a picture of the threshold and why it was moved. And as you know, we have identified the 8 buildings, or 4 buildings and 8 units that are in the RPZ. And as of today, we've bought 6 of the 8 units. Just these 2 units, 18, 16 or something like that, and 1832 are the only ones that are left. Yeah, those are the only ones that are left. All the others have been purchased. So we do own 2 full buildings here in this area as of now, and in our street department has taken down some of these parking sheds and have taken down some of these trees already in these areas as well. Our next project that Barge is working on is the approach, and I've highlighted the RPZ buildings in that area, and of course there's the RPZ, and as you know, we also have the navigation easement, which is roughly in this area. So they're looking at easily taking this out, and replacing those trees. But this is going to be the areas around here off the edge that they're working on. And they are working with the information that MV5 received, all that data of the flying in, and peeling out the layers of the onion to see exactly, to minimize our work that we have to do in this area and still achieve our approach and bring that threshold back to its rightful place at the end of the pavement. Anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, through the holidays and everything, we hadn't made a tremendous amount of progress. We've started out, but we've been working with NV5, and they're supposed to be getting us a data dump of everything that they've flown out here over the past 5-6 years. They're giving it to us. They're just giving it to us because you've paid for it and it's been done. Some of it was archived. They're going back. It's been very slow to come in, and we have not pushed them tremendously too hard yet, but we've started kind of ratcheting up, asking for it a little more frequently. But once we get all that data, we'll be able to start really populating things a lot quicker.
On the north end, we have the RPZ, which is pretty much on property here now. And as if we were to extend that runway to 5,000 feet, as you know, that RPZ kind of stretches out to this driveway here at the Swanson property across this line here. So it really, this is the only area that's not controlled. And that's even in question because there's probably some easements in there that we have with the city for utilities and things like that. This property right here is kind of coming into play right now. And we've been talking to the realtor on that. The owner of it, the father has passed, and the family is wanting to sell it quickly. So this is being developed, and this is coming into play right now. So we are in those conversations. I did want to share with you
Those images are really helpful, Chad. I
Yeah.
appreciate you putting that together.
Yeah.
That was the best visual I've seen of that.
Well,
I think it helps to see it that way.
I want to, when I take it to city council, it kind of gives it from the pilot perspective too.
Yeah.
You know, when you see it from that perspective and you see what's below you before you get to the runway, it says a lot. Here's kind of an idea of the development of that area where Swanson property is. They really have about 5 squares here that they're going to be developing, and what you'll see here is a parking and then a long strip of stores, and parking in the same here. And back here is some office or storage type things. This is common area, and this is really kind of their stormwater detention areas and things like that. So the city asked them to take this street and turn it into there for future development. So we'll see what all happens there with that. Swanson has done a great job. This is part of their plan book, and you'll see a lot of airport protection type language in here as to the heights of the buildings, heights of trees, heights of the light posts. Everything is controlled by, and it's not just the existing, it's for future 5,000 foot runway situation. So they've worked with us very well on that. And you know, I'm hoping that if that other property goes to commercial development, we could work something like that similar with that and protect that airspace for us. So at the end of the year, it's always fun to look at our operations. And I thought this was really interesting in that since we received Furtower in March of 2021. So these numbers are a little low, but you can see we've had a really steady number of operations. MTSU has decreased by about 17% since 2021, 65,000 to 54,000, but yet we haven't lost our number of operations. In fact, we've gained by about 1.3% in this 4-year period.
Do you think that's due to their standard operating procedures? that they've put
Absolutely.
in place?
Yes, absolutely. And so I took a little bit deeper dive. Furtower provides you some, this graph right here represents a month. So from the 1st of March to the 31st of March, and these are the hours of the day. So you can see on through at 6 o'clock, there's been, I don't know, 200 some operations in that month. But you can kind of see how the day flows in through that month of March. And here in 2021, we're looking at almost 850, 900 operations. And then when you go to 2024, you're to 750, something like that. I took a look at April of 21 and 24, and you can really see the difference there. Your 6 o'clock hour, instead of being at 300, now you're at 150, something like that. And, the night hours are again way down into the 400s and 300 range, where you were at the 500 range when people are going to bed and things like that, where we'd really get a lot of the complaints and everything. So yes, we put the money towards Vertower and doing getting the consultant here to help us collect this data and look through it. All the operators and pilots have been neighborly and adjusting their times when to do touch and goes, and both flight schools dispatching and training flights to other airports. And then I really think the safety officer being on board to just oversee them and give them reports and check on what they're doing has really paid a big difference here in our operations. So the next step is looking at the federal contract tower, and these are the 3 sites that we're looking at. And really kind of an interesting thing when you think about this tower in these different locations. One, you want to put it in a place where you're not going to put a hangar or have any future development. So those were some of the why those sites were selected. And then you want to have a good view of both ends of the runway. And this is really in between these 2 taxiways is the center point of our airport, of our runway. And so one of the cool things that we got to take a look at through Barge's folks is that they gave you a site like this is the tower, and with this building, these 2 buildings seem to be our issue as far as height, getting over the height of these things. Because what they do is they kind of do like a shadow display, and you can see both ends of the runway, but then if this tower isn't above the height of these buildings, then you can't see various areas of this ramp. And the same thing, especially here on this end by the terminal, if you're not tall enough, then you could really shadow and not see this whole taxiway area, or maybe even the end of the runway, unless you build it up. And the problem is, the higher you go, the more expensive it goes. So this location really had a very little bit of shadowing right in here. So a little bit higher, and you could get over this. So there's a lot of cool things to look at there. We had submitted our application to the state for the normal bill funding for this, and within a couple of weeks received the reimbursement agreement from the FAA. And what we have found out over the last couple of weeks is that they're no longer taking the third-party siting surveys and analysis that Dave Byers or Peter Dietz would do, and the FAA is doing it. In fact, there was an airport that we heard in North Carolina that had a third party do it. They handed in the work, and the FAA says, we're not taking it. And that's so frustrating because you've already spent the money, So, and there's no announcement about this. It's just, we just happened to find out at the right time. They contacted us with the agreement. And so we're moving forward with that. Now, it's there's some money being saved by them doing it. They say they can do it in about a year to give us the full report. Within the first few months of them doing the analysis, we will know the location and the height. So then we can do the environmental part of this project, which should not be much of anything. But Barge does have to provide survey information. And so a lot of it has to do with our ALP and then specific survey information that they have to provide to them for each of these sites. Now here's the kicker. They won't tell you what that specific survey information is until We have handed them the money and signed the contract. But we already know from previous projects what that information is. So we're going to go ahead and start that process, getting them the money and the signing the agreement, and getting Barge is already putting together what it will take to do the survey information, kind of update our ALP to represent some of these buildings that have been put in place, and provide that to the FAA to move forward. So it's going to take at least a year for them to get to the part where we actually have a report back and can move forward to the next step with the tower siting service. I don't think we're hurting for any time, but that's kind of the timetable for what it'll take to go to the next step. Anything I missed there?
No, just that it's a peculiar method that we are going down. This is not the normal process we followed. We did have to try to figure out how it even showed up,
Yeah.
how they even got it. So we got a call with FAA, and we went from really muddy to silty.
Silty.
Yeah, but kind of walked through the process, and it'll just kind of be a learning experience for all of us, I guess, going through with them.
And that's the problem too.
When you say muddy, you mean muddy on how the funding came from the FAA for our
That
particular
and
project?
their process, and because they just kind of tell you, we're going to do it, and we'll keep you
And-
notified of where
Well,
we
thank
are.
goodness we found out now instead.
Yeah, well,
After we
exactly.
paid somebody
And
else to do it.
it's
Yeah.
not their money. It's we pay them, and the reimbursement is whatever's left over. We get reimbursed. So we're still going through the state and getting some of that bill money, but it changed our whole application because
Well, we had to de-scope the two people that were doing this, and of course they're upset because that's what they do, and so they're mad. They're fighting the FAA, and we didn't want to get in the middle of that, and so we kind of disassociated ourselves with them, and so it's interesting.
It's so we finally kind of had this guy with the FAA on the phone, and he's answering all the questions, and so we kind of have a good idea what this step is. So then I tried to ask him what the next steps were, and when do we get the contract for when they start to fund it at 90-10, 90%, 10%, and all these FAA guys are like, this is my hole. That's all I do, and I can't tell you anything more than this. And so all I know is sighting right now, and what we've been told from Dave Byers and Peter Dietz and all them as to what the end goal is and what can come down the line, but nothing specific from the FAA. that
So
we
where
can
are
get.
we, before all that came up, we had that issue with the state on having to do the environmental assessment before we could get the funding.
Well-
Where did all that end up? Or we still have an issue with that?
We've submitted it. We keep reminding them that we've submitted it, and I think they've finally come back.
What's the level just before, above a CADX?
It was a documented CAT. I thought it was documented CADX.
Yeah.
So they're supposed to get us something back in writing. We have not received anything yet in writing, but I mean, we submitted it back in August.
Yes, so the state told Barge, in your scope, do this level of environmental, which was the
Do we have to do it on
lowest.
all three of the sites?
No, just the one.
It's just
Oh,
one
whichever.
document,
Okay.
and it's really, this is for design. So I mean, I don't really know what we're going to disturb.
Right, yeah.
So, but this is the same thing I'm dealing with at another airport. We submitted the same thing in August, and we just had a really ugly meeting last week to get the state to finally do something. So, it's moving.
Okay.
And so, but like Chad said, this guy was like, I don't know, this is all I do, and then, but they said their final is they issue a report. And once they issue a report, then you design the tower. But he said we could go ahead and start preliminary design when they give us the location and the height. And then we can start doing some preliminary design if we want to stay ahead of the game a little bit.
Aeronautics is a little green right now. They've got a lot of new people, so they rely heavily on the ADO as to the Memphis office as to what they should require us to do. And so my push is always, every one of these locations is an area that has been disturbed for years, and it's in the terminal area. So there's nothing there that we know of. And
It seems pretty cut and dry, but once we bring them in, it's not. So the other issue that we kind of in that same boat that we're probably going to see here in the next couple of weeks is the return to work policy. There are people commuting, teleworking with FAA that hadn't been in the office in 2 years, and some of them are an hour to 3 hours away. One of my friends lives in Cookville, and he's attached to the DC office, and he is not going to DC. So we may see a mass exodus of the FAA staff, or a lot of shuffling, and that's probably going to disrupt some things for sure.
Well, I was going to ask is, do you think we haven't heard some of the things because they've been waiting for the,
No, I think Chad hit the nail on the head. They don't know what they're doing.
okay.
Evan Lester left and went to Smyrna, left them shorthanded. They lost a couple people to FAA over the past year or two. They pick up the book and they read it, and there's no deviation from what they interpret that to say, and their interpretation is wrong most of the time. So it's a lot of back and forth.
So, to clarify, so you are picking the sites, but then the FAA can veto those sites and pick their own site? And
Well,
we have
now,
to go,
we kind of vetted these through a process with Peter Deeks and Dave Byers. They have a shadow program.
Right.
Just to kind of look, that's how we came up with these. The one closest to the runway is probably not going to make it because it's where Echo needs to go and it's real close to the runway. The one where the fuel system is now, it could be viable, but I think wasn't there some going to the runway in? There were some issues with the hangars.
yeah,
The one back here has got the best chance. It's got TDK on one end though that we're going to have to make sure we go over, and it can kind of see around those two. I think the worst area was kind of a blind spot here, and it's got pretty clear view all the way to the other end. So more than likely that's going to be it. We just don't know how high, how
okay.
tall it'll be.
But I need clarification. You're saying
The
that
FAA
when
is
the
gonna tell them how
FAA
tall
comes
it needs to
back,
be. The FAA is gonna tell them how tall it needs to be for that site,
Yeah,
right?
we won't know the site that they've chosen
They're
until
going
we
to do
give
the
it.
same study on all three,
Okay.
and then I
Okay.
don't really know.
they're going to say which
That's
one
what-
is best.
Yes.
Okay, that's what I was,
And so there will be, there's, not only are we looking at the runway ends, but he's got to be able to see all the way around here as well.
oh, no.
At the traffic pattern and everything else.
Right.
So, hey, it's going to have to be taller than Walmart. And, it's going to have
How
to,
tall is the Donald McDonald building and the Lanier building right now?
I think we said 35,
something like that.
Okay.
35 feet.
Okay.
And so our ultimate goal though, I think, is for ground operations, it'll be non-moving area back here until you get to a hold short, something to here before you enter the taxiway. So what my plan would be is you can move in here in our new development area, you can move here until you get to a certain point, and then you've got to have permission. And at those points, you shouldn't have any problems being able to be seen with ground control.
The next area of development, which Barge is working on, is our taxiway Foxtrot development area. And this is I've kind of expanded the area kind of large, but it really is these soccer field areas, this new 5-acre area. And then we're moving from north to south. And of course, we're keeping in mind these tower possible locations. But we have a plan, basically in this area that they're working on right now is how to develop it and what is the cost to develop these boxes. Now, they can move around, but we pretty much, this is kind of the idea. The 5 acres, that's a whole nother area we really don't have a good picture of, but that's what Barge is working on to maximize opportunities for hangars, commercial hangars, especially along the roads and things like that. And then as we work our way south in MTSU, figuring out, that's probably, by the time we get to the ALP, we'll have maybe a clearer picture of what those boxes and opportunities might be for hangars in that area. You know, and then we come down to this area, and what are we going to do with hangar 2, hangar 3, you know, expansion of this ramp, moving that road. So there's a lot of area here that will, yeah, I think will clarify itself as MTSU as we see them make their move. As of today, these aircraft are out. There's 5 aircraft that have left. The 6th aircraft we pulled into this parking space, and we've increased this run-up area, more or less doubling that space since we took this space away as a run-up area. And I think that's a good temporary move right now. There's some other opportunities in these, you know, in these taxiways and areas here that they can do run-ups as well.
And then on that, we're hoping to have y'all 3 options, 3 layouts for y'all to kind of look at. And it's not pick one, it's look at all 3 of them. And if y'all want to come up with a 4th based off of bits and pieces of what's there, we will come up with a 4th that y'all all agree on. And then we will go break it out into puzzle pieces with cost estimates to show how it can be built, kind of modular.
There are some interested parties here that we're working with, but it's very on the initial phases of those discussions. The federal and state funding, that's really the big question right now. We made a good push with the Tennessee Aviation Association last year. The state budget was $25 million for general aviation airports, and that $25 million included federal money. No.
It was 25, but it included, they took out state programs and just different things they took out of it, and then they threw, I think about 15 of it went to projects.
So when we've talked it over with the Tennessee Airports Commission, Aeronautics Commission, and some of those others, and we look at, and the staff at Aeronautics Division, really to do what needs to be done at the airports, what they get from all the airports across the state is about $75 million. And you need an extra $25 million just to get into the building of hangars and infrastructure and improvements. So the ask right now that's going to the state from them is $100 million.
They asked for $100 million total all in. TAA has been lobbying pretty hard for $75 million state. They pretty much sync up. We intercepted a email that we were not supposed to get, and it has all their projections for this year, and it doesn't look good. So we are, they emailed it to the wrong bill, and it just happened to be somebody I knew that sent it to me. But it has like $9 million next year for projects, which is nothing. I mean, I don't know.
Across the state.
Across the state. They had $3.5 million or $3.7 million in discretionary. Every penny of that is going to Smyrna to fix their runway. They have gone back on the ACIPs that we spend days working on, and they have revised them and emailed them out to people telling them what they're going to do, and some of it doesn't make any sense. So,
So for this fiscal year, we have really 3 projects with them going on. Maintenance, which is the normal maintenance every year, $15,000. We have the tower, and then we have the design work of that pavement around the T-hangars. And what they're trying to do is get us to use up all of our bill money, because with the new administration, that bill funding project money will probably go away in 2 years.
Yeah,
is
2
it?
years.
2 years. So they're trying to use that all up. We don't know what's going to follow. And the state money, as you can hear, is way short from what is needed.
So
it's-
even just talking about that pavement repair, if we are designing it in FY25, they have it shown on their thing, they're not going to build it until 27.
yeah.
So, I have a lot of issues with how they're doing things because they don't own this airport. They shouldn't be telling any airport what they should or should not be doing based on what money they may or may not have. There's some just really bad precedents they're trying to set, so by no means feel obligated to do it their way.
So that's kind of the state of where we're at with our projects and things like that. For this year, March 24th and 26th is the Tennessee Airports Conference. It's back here at Murfreesboro at the Embassy Suites. So if you are wanting to go, Cannon, y'all want to go? Okay. I'll put you all down for that. There is a presentation that's going to be made for the the career contribution.
General contributions to general aviation.
Yeah, to general aviation. And that will be going to George Huddleston. We were supposed to give it to him, hoping that he would be there. So we're going to ask Tracy to be there and accept that for him. So for his work with the aeronautics and all that through the years. So that will be at the lunch awards banquet on Tuesday. So I'm glad you guys are going to be there for that. We will have the Tennessee Aeronautics Division General Aviation Regional Meeting, again like we've had in the past here on May 12th. They like our location.
You should invite his brother and sister to that too.
Yeah, I will. Yeah. So if you want to stop by for that, that's usually pretty boring, but it's always good if you want to meet some of the aeronautics staff and show for that. October 3rd through the 6th, I'm pretty excited about this. The Lance Air Owners and Builders Organization is going to have, 30, 40 aircraft, something like that, here for a little national gathering for them. So we've worked out some spots on the ramp and in the grass and all that for them to tie down some aircraft here. They're excited to come here. They've talked about having their location every other year in Denver and then coming back here every other year. So they really love this area. So we'll see how we do this first year entertaining them. But that's a nice little revenue producer for us as we lease them some of our meeting space. And then the Steam Fest is October 18th, which is the third Thursday of the month. So in the years past, we've always talked about different times that we could have some things for our customers, and I wanted to see if you had some thoughts as to putting some dates on the calendar to recognize our customers, give them an opportunity to, have some Whataburger or hamburgers or biscuits or something like that. I just thought of some different ideas. Like, I know when we have the EAA meeting for the prep for Oshkosh, that's usually a well-attended meeting, and that could be something that we sponsor or something like that. Just pull out pizzas and everything for everybody and do something like that. But if you had any ideas, that's kind of what I'm looking for, and we can put them down and do them.
How many events do you want to have? So
I was thinking if we had 3, we'd be pretty good for the year. We've had a chili cook-off at one time, a couple times in the past. That's always kind of fun. If you got that summer Oshkosh.
I like doing something with the EAA.
Yeah.
Planning for Oshkosh, that's a good idea, because that's a big driver to bring everybody together.
Yeah.
Something that's not on here, November 16th. They're doing like photos with Santa at the airport thing. I'm gonna get MTSU
cool.
to bring out their little yellow Piper Cub, and
Yeah.
it'll be right up front with Santa just here to take photos. We're just gonna let people use their phones. We're not gonna hire a photographer.
That's a good idea.
So we said that when Bill's not here.
Yeah, we're gonna do hot dogs. That's our default. Grill hot dogs for all of it.
So if we do a chili cook-off, say end of February, something like that, we do the Oshkosh, which is summer, and we do the Santa thing. That's pretty, in November, that's pretty good, because October is going to be pretty packed. always full. Okay. And if you come up with anything else, let me know. We'll figure that out. We
I like
have
the fuel farm usage training too. I think that'd be
Yeah.
awesome to get everybody together and kind of go through how everything works.
Yeah. It is a lot different. The systems are a lot different than what we have, and I love the scoreboard that you'll be able to see as you fuel your airplane. It's pretty nice. So we'll do that, and
And the weather briefings, if you need somebody to do that, I'd be glad to do that. I did it for our P-32 flying for 2
Okay.
years in a row, so.
okay. That'd be a good thing. Okay. Excellent. Well, we'll put these down. You'll see those popping up on the calendar.
All right, so you just covered 6 there, right?
Yep.
Is that all you wanted to cover for number
Yeah.
6? Anything else?
No, we're good.
All right, any other business or questions from anybody? That's a great presentation, Chad. I appreciate you and Ryan putting that together. That's really
Yeah.
helpful for me. I like the visuals y'all did for it.
Yeah.
When are you gonna do that for city council?
Yes. Yeah. February. That'll be
Workshop.
what is that?
It's the third Thursday,
Second Thursday.
second Thursday.
Yeah. Let me see. Get you that date. The 13th of February.
Okay. What time is that?
11:30. I'll let you know if it doesn't make the agenda.
Were those pictures from the FAA, or did we shoot them with a drone? know
I just
that
got those off of Google Earth.
Did-
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Google Earth and snipping.
Yeah. No, Benson Barge will do a lot of their survey work for those towers with some drones and,
Yeah,
and
we're talking about
things,
using the drones.
and getting some heights of some of these new buildings that are
That's
up.
technical.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so if there's no other business, next meeting is February 24th.
Yes, sir, and we'll start to get into some of our budget
Tell them.
things.
We-
We'll
tell them
get
now.
into hangar
Let them
rent because we have to give them 60 days notice, so that'll give us time to get it through Airport Commission and City Council. So we'll start to delve into that. You'll see some budget items, and then probably March or April, you'll see some more budget information come through.
All right, if there's no further business, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
A motion to adjourn.
Second.